Testing 1, 2, rumble. Testing rumble. Hey, good to see you, Minnesota. I'm checking out the volume here on rumble side of the house. Hey, good to see you, Minnesota. Checking out the volume here. Heading over to YouTube now. So now, if y'all don't mind, join me over on YouTube. Just give me a thumbs up on Rumble before you leave, because I can monitor the chat easier on YouTube. And sometimes when I switch back and forth, I can lose the live stream. So I do have source references tonight, and I'll get to that. It'll be simultaneously broadcasted to Rumble or YouTube. You don't have to switch over to YouTube if you don't like, though. All right, I'll catch y'all later on Rumble. Welcome everybody to the Area 111 live stream. This show is Star H, coming from you from the beautiful Sunshine State of Florida, and basically like today, that reinforces the beautiful Sunshine State of Florida, because today was literally perfect in Florida. Sunshine around 75 degrees it got up to, not too hot, not cold really, not cold at all for most of us, even in Florida. But anyways, I'm grateful to God Almighty for everything we have, and as a country and as individuals, and I'm going to get into some things that part of God's creation that can heal us, and this goes back a long time. If you noticed, the beginning live stream title is Silver. Okay, DeSoto, he's a conquistador. DeSoto, Hernando DeSoto. Okay, Fountain of Youth, and the state two-letter identifiers for Florida and Arkansas. So what do those two states have in common with the Fountain of Youth and Silver and DeSoto? I could have plugged in Ponce de Leon, but I didn't do that. Okay, that's kind of secondary as to what the title is. Basically, going to bring y'all. I'm going to basically go back to history and talk about something that a lot of people are overlooking. And I'll get to that once I'm over on YouTube. Welcome everybody to the YouTube live stream of Area 111 as well. Those I shared the live stream over to True Social, but there's a different setup there. I have a little bit of problems without having to copy the link and paste it. But I'll get into that after the main subjects tonight. Okay, the main subjects tonight, I'll get into those. Hold on a second. Bringing up the live stream on YouTube now. Okay. Now that coin, Paul Revere, and I've talked about this before. There's a lot of people overlooking that as well, going back to the colonial days of Paul Revere and the golden age of American silver. Okay, so we're in the 250th year anniversary of the United States of America, our founding, and a lot of this ties to this. So, in my opinion, this is just my opinion based on I do a lot of research, hours. I'm talking hours and hours. I go back in history all the way back to the 16th century, if you will, the 1500s, you know, and look at these what they were calling back then actually miracle cures. Miracle cures. Yeah, yeah, Ken, Quincy, Massachusetts. Man, I tell you what, far as colonial stuff, I'd love to be out there to do some scouting, dowsing or metal detecting. No, I don't really, you know, diviner rods, diviner rods. I don't call it that. I'm not into the, you know, divination or whatever you call that. So, anyways, yeah, man, you're loaded with history there in Massachusetts. That's for sure. Um, that's out of my that's out of my stomping grounds. That's far over my head, far as Massachusetts. But we're going to get into a little bit of history of Florida tonight and Arkansas, and going all the way back to Ponce de Leon and the search for the Fountain of the Youth. While Ponce de Leon was actually searching for the Fountain of Youth, basically there's a place in St. Augustine actually called the Fountain of Youth. I believe it's a private private archaeological site, and I've actually been there before. And I'm going to talk about the properties for that, what people believe has therapeutic. Now, remember, I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice. So, you know, uh, just history. You can read up the history yourself. I can give you some of the source references to get into this, but anyways, um, so St. Augustine area, and then going through to Arkansas. I'm going to focus on the White River and Arkansas and some historical, uh, what do you call it, accounts of history that is basically derived from the therapeutic effects of the river, White River, and that area in Arkansas. So I'm going to get into that as well. Now, we have to focus on the Indian Rock House that in that same area of White River. And basically, whenever you're doing your research, make sure you write these sources down, so you wouldn't just be constrained to what I'm trying to say. In my source references, you might want to go into before you actually invest in anything like silver. There's a lot more history involved in silver and the therapeutic uses that anybody's even talking about. In my opinion, gold is way overpriced, and not maybe not way overpriced, but overpriced at least for me, right? Yeah. And where'd you pick that up at, Ken? Now, I basically um shared money metals exchange. I've shared that on this channel before, but yeah, they sell that Paul Revere silver coin. Now I don't know. I think it's on Money Metals. Okay, you went to coin shopping. What was the spot on that? I mean, not the spot, the premium. kind of premium did you pay for that? No, I didn't. They have the rounds. They have the rounds, Paul Revere silver coin. That's actually a picture of it on my avatar. Oh, you paid, was that $80? Yeah, you got a pretty good price, man, in my opinion. You know, that goes back to history. And a lot of people, they may have done that, basically talked about the history of uh, at Money Metals for the Paul Revere coin. But yeah, now I didn't get the, what I didn't like about it. I'm not trying, hey, I promote Money Metals Exchange. They're really easy. Now, just to give some advice, I'm not a financial advisor, nothing like that, right? But if you want to buy um, silver from Money Metals Exchange, you don't have to pay with a credit card or a debit card, but there's like a 3% fee. I think it's either 3.4, 3.5% fee. Uh, when you pay by credit card. So if you want to grab silver without the fee, you can basically go online, pick out what silver you want to buy. I would recommend 999. Okay, not 925, not sterling silver. That's just my opinion. Because remember, when there are basically shaping metal forms, say for example, like the Vince Lombardi Trophy, you have to have 999 silver to actually create the 925 that they make sterling silver, like jewelry, um, uh, I don't know, jewelry and other types of things. Like silver, stainless steel, silver tea sets. So to actually mold or whatever, beat that silver into place. By the way, there's a lot of history about the Vince Lombardi Trophy. For those that don't know what the Vince Lombardi Trophy is, it's the Super Bowl trophy for the winners. And this year it was the Seattle Seahawks. So they played be honest with you, they deserved it, even though I was rooting for the Patriots. They deserved it. The defense was, man, I tell you what, they had a great defensive team. I think 30 players on the Patriots were basically rookies. I think that's most in franchise history. I don't know if that's the most in Super Bowl history, as far as a team having 30 rookies on the team, in the Super Bowl. But you have to give them credit too, as well, because they went that far, with 30 rookies on their team. So, anyways, yeah, the Vince Lombardi Trophy is actually made of sterling silver. That's 925, not 999, right? And as I said before, they have to use 999 to basically make the silver with whatever they add to the silver, like it's copper or nickel or whatever, you know, to basically form the whatever object they're trying to create, whatever. And Tiffany is the company. It takes them 4 months, from my understanding, to actually make just a Vince Lombardi Trophy. It's got the picture or silver form of the football and a kickoff position. It's a really cool looking trophy, but that's a team trophy. The players actually would get a, what do you call that? A, a smaller size. I forget to call what that term is, but a smaller size of a copy of the Vince Lombardi Trophy. But the Vince Lombardi Trophy is 7 pounds. And the way you see some people hold it, you think it'd be more money, more weight than that, like about 20 pounds or 30 pounds. But I know some people pick it up. Some of those guys pick it up with one hand, whatever. it's nothing to them. 7 pounds is nothing. But I think some people are scared they'll drop it or whatever. Could you imagine if you dropped it and the football broke off or something and rolled down the field or something like that? That'd be crazy, right? So, I'm knock on wood, don't want to see that ever happening. But anyways, yeah, I'm not going to get into that Bad Bunny, whatever. That's just ridiculous. You know, there should be repercussions. I switched out right when I heard it was all like rap and there's no rhyming involved. To me, it didn't have any, what do you call it, rhythm or anything like that. It was just rap and just like somebody talking. And, I switched over to um, the All American halftime show over there with Turning Point, and I'm glad I did. I even did it so much. I went there late. It was a little bit late when I got there, and I actually rewinded that video and from Turning Point and watched from the very beginning. So I got back to the Super Bowl late. But hey, it's not the players' fault. I know a small percentage of people in the NFL they support that kind of trash, but we don't. That doesn't reflect our culture or anything like that. But that's as far as I'll go with that tonight. So yeah, there's the Paul Revere rounds over at Money Metals Exchange, and you can purchase. Last time I saw the price of silver today was around $82. I'm not really that concerned with the price where it's going. I'm pretty confident on all my research that it's going to go up quite a bit. And to me, the ratio of gold like 62-1 over silver is just way too much. And there's so many uses of silver. I'm going to get into that tonight. Also, the medicinal purposes. If you can call, or I should say, therapeutic. Okay, so if you go look at there's silver ointment, all kinds of ointments. For a lot of people that didn't even know that. I just learned about this when I was searching because I'm a what you call an amateur type treasure hunter. Okay, I got a family background of that, so I won't get into that. Get into the personal aspects of all of that, but yeah, we staked a claim as far as my family's concerned, offshore, a couple of claims, and whether that worked out or not, probably we'll never know. And that's a whole nother story in and of itself. So, anyways, they make sure one of the individuals in my family were put on the sidelines for a few years. So, anything that may have been found or not found after that time point was probably already um, picked up. Let's just say picked up. So, anyways, let me get into this again. So again, silver, De Soto, okay, Fountain of Youth. Yeah, now De Soto, he's not the I'm pretty sure De Soto came after Ponce de Leon, um Ponce de Leon, but I might not be that might not be correct. But anyways, go back to the Paul Revere silver picture of the silver round I have there on the avatar photograph. Now, if you go to sterling silver, the Wikipedia link, scroll down to the history, the colonial period history, and you'll find Paul Revere. He was a silversmith, okay, back in those days. And that's where the term the golden age of American silver came from. Now, if y'all remember or not, this might be a coincidence. I'm not saying it's directly, I'm 100%. So remember that New Year's Eve party gown that Melania Trump was wearing? It looked kind of metallic, didn't it? It looked kind of metallic, didn't it? Check that out. Check her dress out. Man, I tell you what, proud of him, no matter what anybody says. All the work the guy does, I mean, he's like works nonstop. He hardly ever sleeps. I mean, I don't know where he gets that energy from. Maybe he found the fountain of youth too. Maybe he visited um, St. Augustine, the fountain of youth, and picked up some stuff there and picked up some stuff in Arkansas, Arkansas. Now, how do y'all call it? Arkansas? If you call it Arkansas, put a one in the chat on YouTube. If you call it, hold on a second. I'm not seeing my. Okay. Okay. Let me see. Let me put a. Yeah, man. I tell you, I would love to. Yeah, been all around Bunker Hill and Concord. No, one problem about like treasure hunters or people hunting for old artifacts, whatever, historical stuff. A lot of that's been paved over, right? You got interstates, uh, state roads, highways or whatever, and all that stuff, and all these buildings, and they tore down all the older buildings and paved over them, whatever, and poured new foundations or whatever, what have you. A lot of that history's been basically recovered up. Yeah, yeah. Um, if you could share the link, Ken, in the comments section on YouTube, make sure you put it in the comments, not in the chat, right? Because it won't save after the live stream's over. So if you can put the link of where you bought it, there's probably a link to which the local, the local silver and gold place you went to exchange. Or if you can find the mint, right, who minted the coin, that'd probably be even better. That way, if you know who minted it, you can look for it and look through the other metals companies that are online. So let's get back into this again. I'm going to put a chat up on the screen so you'll catch the eye of people coming into the live stream. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and I'm not challenging your intelligence there. You can challenge mine, believe me. You can challenge my intelligence all day long. you know. Uh a lot of us, I'm not trying to degrade my service to my country, but a lot of the people call us scope dopes, aerospace controller warning systems operator. Another term, kind of like a derogatory, just what they call that, a term of endearment. Our scope dope buddies, they called us scope dopes, whatever. Anyways, we're the guys that look at the radar and watch that sweep go around in circles, and it hypnotizes us and we fall asleep at. No, I never fell asleep on console. Believe me, if I did, I would have got the boot, because there's other people that get alerts and all kinds of stuff. Uh, so I had a habit of doing something that I probably shouldn't have done, it kind of like showing off. But the very first SIF return I would get, I'd already go ahead and initiate it because I knew where they were taking off at, and it sounded off all the alarms. Sounded off all the alarms. I literally only had one return from the radar sweep before it came back around again, and I'm already initiating on the track. Back in those days, it was a whole lot different. This semi-automatic computer system, whatever, ancient. I think a calculator had, you know, more power than the computers we had back in those days, and I'm talking about the 70s. Okay, so unless you're talking about the secret computers that we didn't have access to, whatever. Golden Age. What in the world? Let me see if this will let me do this. What I'm trying to do. This is like my calling card when I go to other channels, but okay. Yeah, it worked on the top. It didn't work in the chat because it started another line, but it's kind of like you see the US flag symbol and you got our picture on the avatar, whatever, the character, the music sign, and America, music for Americans, right? And that wasn't the Super Bowl Big Bunny wasn't American music for Americans. It was for those speaking in the conquered language. These people, they literally have no idea. They have no clue. Remember that English, whatever her name is, came up and said that uh, they're sitting on stolen land. And think about all the people coming from South America. They're coming not only from a conquered land. Where do we think Latin came from? It's not Mayan. It's not Native American. You know, we have more rights being here than actually the same rights as Native Americans, in my opinion, because if the Native Americans didn't want us at all, the the pilgrims or the Puritans or whatever that come to what we called back then the New World, right? Uh, all the Native American tribes could have stood up against us and wiped us all out. I mean, they had the overwhelming majority, but no, we made friendships and we made peace with them. Remember? Let me change out the avatar photograph. So these people have no idea that they're speaking in the conquistadors' language, the conquerors' language. We're talking even Ponce de Leon, uh, de Soto, you know, all of those conquistadors that came to the New World and conquered all the territory, took over all the territory, right? They they are they are basically speaking the conqueror's language, right? And the guy's got the nerve to come up, this pervert bunny, whatever the heck his name is, I could care less, and talking talking smack about our country and all this stuff, you know what I mean? And degrading our flag on the 50-yard line. I don't know if that's AI or not, but you have to be careful. But they burnt the American flag during that halftime show. You know, and isn't it amazing how many of the news agencies or mainstream media are going in to protect that kind of crap? I mean, not I couldn't understand any word of it. And then there was a threat made, a a vocal threat made by this pervert bunny, whatever his name is. I could care less. About 4 months. He gave us a warning, like in 4 months, basically, from my understanding. Now I could be wrong. That we have 4 months to speak their language that they were basically forced upon to speak because they were conquered people. Remember, the conquistadors went to Puerto Rico, I think, before they came to the New World, and basically set up a fort in St. Augustine, which is the oldest city in Florida. They call it the oldest city in Florida, right? But the oldest city. So I guess villages don't count from the Native Americans, right? And also, by the way, there's been a lot of concessions we made, making the American natives as equal as us, or actually giving them more benefits. How many people know that the Native Americans living on the reservations, from my understanding, they don't have to pay federal tax? How many people even know that? The reservations is their land. Think about all the casinos and the revenue. They're allowed to legally open a casino. There's one in Tampa Hard Rock Casino. Is right off of I-4 going from I guess you'd say Thonotosassa to Tampa. I mean, so we might, as far as the population of Native Americans, there's not a large enough population of Native Americans to basically be able to live in all these cities across the entire United States. Now, I'm not dismissing the fact of how many of them were killed, but remember what came first before the English colonists or European colonists? Spain. It's unbelievable how nobody even talks about that. You know how they captured the female Indians, right? And use your imagination what they did they gave them to their men. Read the history of De Soto. Read the history of Ponce de Leon. And they're talking about us. Remember Thanksgiving? We sat the same, we broke bread with Native Americans. We were friends with them. We traded with them. You know, and this is the garbage they're teaching our children in school. This is the garbage they're teaching our children. And thank God for Turning Point, because, man, that was horrible. And I have to say, when they bash our culture, right, they may not like our culture, but I can tell you one thing right now, it's the United States of America. We got cultures, and we don't discriminate against Native American cultures. I'm very, very proud of our Native American culture and what we have shared together. If it wasn't for the Native Americans, we probably wouldn't have survived the first winter to try to establish a colony. First colony, right? And I think that's a good time before I get into the silver. Now, please stick around. If you're just coming into the live stream, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. Please share the live stream. this has got to be the most throttled back shadow band um, um, channel probably in all of one of the top shadow band channels in all of YouTube. Because people like Ken, you were here from the very beginning, probably about 3 or 4 years ago when I started this channel. I was having thousands of viewers for single live streams. And even with that being deplatformed multiple times, I went over the 100,000 views over on Rumble. Over 100,000 views. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You remember one of those live streams, it was August, I believe it was August 10th. It was 2 days after the the criminal Mar-a-Lago raid. And I went up there with Search the Truth and called Miss RH. And basically, we just showed our support for our president, you know. So, at the time, I guess, yeah, he was a former president, right? Yeah, that Jack Smith stuff. Is Jack Smith in prison yet? Wasn't there a grand jury? Wasn't there a grand jury on Jack Smith? How come that guy is in prison yet? How come those people that basically authorized the use of lethal force, how come they haven't, I don't know, have they been just fired? No, they set up a military assault type operation. They authorized the use of lethal force to murder our president, President Trump. And think about it. Yes, yeah. You can talk to Ken about it. He'll give you the truth. You know, that there's more witnesses out there than just myself. I'm not just witnessing for myself. There's many witnesses out there. And they are, if you go to my True Social channel and look at my profile, uh, you'll see why. I just put out a lot of new information. These people are toast. I don't know if it's going to go that far, but they are basically the information that came out with Mayorkas just recently. Remember, he was part of facilitating and directing the invasion into our country, right? That caused hundreds of thousands of deaths. Not only was that treason, not only was it treason, which there's no statute of limitations for, he was complicit in the hundreds of thousands of deaths. They were getting those reports, by the way, because a lot of those deaths that had occurred, and the governors and the attorney generals of each state, mostly red states, that encountered those crimes due to those that they allowed to come just walk right across the border in most cases with no vetting or nothing, right? We have that information on record in all these states. That is official executive branch law enforcement evidence. It's even gone to judicial branch of government. It's even gone to people being charged for these crimes and stuff like that. And, that's not only was the guy this is just my opinion, right? And everyone's presumed to be innocent until proven guilty in the court of law, even Mayorkas, right? And you know what's not gonna work? It's not gonna get Mayorkas and other people, in my opinion. It's not gonna work. Or get out of jail card free, get out of jail, pass jail and get out of jail free card or whatever. It's not going to get you a get out of a jail free card to say you were ordered to do it by the president of the United States. who at the time was O'Biden. Okay? O'Biden. So go check out the source references I put on True Social regarding Mayorkas. And I'm telling you one thing right now, they're on him really, really. They're doing their due diligence. Remember all those flights that came in at dark 30? I think there was like 70 flights that came into Florida before Governor DeSantis was notified. Think about that. 70 flights. And we have, I don't know if y'all heard of Michael Yon, former, I think he's a special forces. I can't remember if he's Green Beret but former special forces guy was conducting surveillance and he had a team. We actually have surveillance of the operation that not only Biden was running, but if you separate Barack Obama and Joe Biden and you look at the National Democratic Redistricting Committee, it's an organization. That information's on True Social. That's the reason why this type of caliber information getting here, a lot of this people have never heard before. You're definitely not hearing it on mainstream media because they're afraid to. They're afraid to go through this. And far as my opinion, I did a deep dive. Remember, there's over 700 military bases around the world for my last recollection. And think about all the foreign embassies we have all around. Think about far as the impeachment and the phone call. Remember the ambassador to Ukraine? Now think about it. The embassy. Now tie that into the National Democratic Redistricting Committee, who was founded by Barack Obama and Eric Holder as wingman, Attorney General. That was the first AG that was censored. Think about those two right there. Think about Acorn when he was a community organizer in Chicago. Acorn creating fraudulent voter registrations in the thousands. You think about National Democratic Redistricting Committee, where they knew what districts they were going to bring him into to take over the red states. And think about the U.S. Census survey and how they're using that for the algorithms basically of redistricting. We got all this evidence in droves, in droves. Okay, so let's go in and read something real quick. I want to read this real quick for everyone, as far as our history goes. And King James, Authorized Bible. Okay, I'm going to give everyone the Arkansas preamble, their state preamble. Every state in our union that basically became a star on the flag, became a state, they each have their own state preamble. Now I'm going to read Arkansas's preamble, 1874. We, the people of the state of Arkansas, grateful to Almighty God for the privilege of choosing our own form of government. Okay, let's go to Florida preamble. Florida preamble, 1885. We became a state basically after we acquired it from who? From Spain. We became a state in 1885. Our preamble for the state of Florida. We, the people of the state of Florida, grateful to Almighty God for our constitutional liberty, establish this Constitution. Okay? All right. Now, I want to read something that's a very, very part of our foundation of our country. It went from a colonies, the 13 colonies, to 13 states, right? And continued on from there until we had a total of 50 states. This is the Mayflower Compact text. In the name of God, amen. We whose names are underwritten, the loyal subjects of our dread sovereign Lord King James, by the grace of God of Great Britain, France, and Ireland, King, Defender of the Faith, etc., having undertaken for the glory of God and advancement of the Christian faith and honor of our King and country, a voyage to plant the first colony in the northern parts of Virginia, do by these present solemnly and mutually in the presence of God and one of another, covenant and combine ourselves together into a civil body politic for our better ordering and preservation and furtherance of the ends aforesaid, and by virtue hereof to enact, constitute, and frame just and equal laws, ordinances, acts, constitutions, and offices from time to time as shall be thought most meet and convenient for the general good of the colony, unto which we promise all due submission and obedience. In witness whereof we have hereunder subscribed our names at Cape Cod the 11th of November in the year of the reign of our sovereign Lord King James of England, France, and Ireland the 18th, and Scotland the 54th Anno Domini 1620. Remember when was the first KJV Bible was issued? About 20 years earlier. King James, 1600 King James, right? Somebody can fact check that for me if you will. I'm pretty sure it was 1600. So just 20 years later, and they did have a King James Bible on with them when they came to establish that first colony. Okay. First colony in the northern parts of Virginia. All right. So with that said, I'm moving on now to the next information. So silver, we're going to talk about the properties of silver. And basically, I like to remind people that Ponce de Leon was basically the first one that came, far as my knowledge, looking for what they call the fountain of youth. Now, the French, far as my understanding, were there first in the Whitewater type area near the Indian Rock House. The Indian Rock House is basically on a bluff. It's a natural rock formation that they would take shelter in, and there was healing properties in the White River. And what they found out, I believe it was the Soto. I watched the History Channel episode about the basically successors of Ponce de Leon. They didn't give up that basically search for the Fountain of Youth, but Ponce de Leon, they did believe they found it. And I'm going to talk about the properties of the Fountain of Youth in St. Augustine. Okay, you can go to this day. It's a what do you call it? They have a visitors where you can go view the park, whatever. It's an actual park, and you can actually drink the water from the fountain or the spring. Okay, fountains up from the ground, or there's like a waterfall, or fountains, whatever. They basically come up inside the river, or like the springs, right? They fountain up. And in Florida, we have a place called Sulphur Springs, Florida. It's right. I can't remember if that's North Tampa or Southern Tampa, but it's actually in Tampa. In Tampa, they have Sulphur Springs. It was uh, a sulfur basically fed river, the Hillsborough River. They had sulfur coming up, and a lot of people would go to um, Sulphur Springs to swim because they thought it had what do you call it, therapeutic, or like therapeutic type qualities, like healing power. Let's just be, uh, you know, that's what a lot of people claim. Now, for those that are saying, okay, you're you're providing medical advice on the live stream and all this stuff, and we're going to give you another reason to shadow ban. That's not the reason why there's shadow ban in this channel. The shadow ban in this channel because of the information I provide, because I've basically implicated a lot of people, in my opinion, that are treasonous. What they've done to our country has never been any time in history that a rogue group of people that a lot of people call the deep state or whatever have taken over our country and selected who they wanted to basically be in power instead of going through the proper lawful route. And they're caught. I could care less what anybody thinks about me. You can say I'm wrong till the cows come home, whatever. That's fine. That's fine. You have a right to that opinion. Okay, so Sulphur Springs, to this day, a lot of people believe it has longevity properties or therapeutics, or it's like helps you extend your life. So, what if you combine the two? It's just a question. Now, just a question. What other the two? What's the other element I'm talking about? Well, sulfur is what? A mineral, right? Mineral. I want y'all to pay attention, very close attention, to the silver healing, or where they use silver to treat wounds. And that's what I picked up off the History Channel and really caught my eye. There's a whole big field of silver. And far as my understanding, I don't know if the gold has the same properties or not, but I do know there's a lot of properties of silver that they're not talking about. And in my opinion, these huge corporations, they're basically these, what do you call these influencers or these lobbyists that go in and they lobby our Congress. I think they're the ones that are basically keeping silver uh, uh, down way below what it's worth. Now, remember, there's thermal properties of silver. What does that mean? Okay, first of all, there's places that they actually, I think they paint some type of substance with silver particles in it, or like silver dust on the roofs. That you can actually go out there and look at silver roof treatments. It reflects the sun, right? And I don't want to forget about Soto. He was really sick and he about died, and I think he was basically I think he had yellow fever or malaria or something really bad, or typhoid. I can't remember what disease he died from, but he died. And if he'd have probably got to without being injured as much as he was injured. Now, I could be talking about another successor or Ponce de Leon. I have to look that up, but I didn't have enough time tonight to do that, and I didn't want to start the live streams too late. As you know, like Ken, that I normally start the live stream at later hours. I would normally wait till after Liberty Warrior, but you know, I have a lot of things going on to juggle, so I can't wait for another show or But I would do what I would do, so I wouldn't take away any of the followers from over there. I would just do my live stream after he did his whatever, and great bunch of people over there, in my opinion. So, anyways, so silver has um, thermo properties of it, and also, they use silver, of course, for the solar panels and all that stuff, and it does reflect. If you have a very, very fine a film of silver on top of your roof, I don't know if you can paint over, but it'll actually reflect. Like, I was looking at a place in Arizona, they built like a home or a business, and that silver reflects like um it can cool down those places like 60 degrees. When it gets up to real high temperatures, it has the ability to cool down at least the roof of that building like 60 degrees, because silver has the greatest reflective properties of all metals. A lot of people don't understand that or know that. So listen, I'm just going down the desired traits of owning silver and explaining to y'all how they have basically suppressed the price, the real price of silver, the real value of silver based on everything that you can use silver for. Basically, silver, this is a really big deal now. I'm starting to talk about the therapeutic stuff, right? Or healing type stuff. Now, remember, I'm not claiming that. I'm reading the sources. You can find it for yourself. Silver actually helps the travel of electrons. It helps like a conduit, not only for electricity, but for electrons. Think about it for as neuro, think about it far as neuropsychology is concerned. Think about it in those terms. Okay. Think about sulfur springs. Think about joining these certain attributes with minerals and like silver. And remember, silver is a great conduit of electricity, and the pure form of how there's no suppression while using silver based on other metals are concerned. As far as reflective properties, silver has the most reflective properties, even better than gold. Okay. So, like a pure form of, they use silver also in lasers. Okay. Because it's the greatest metal or substance as far as reflection that there is out there, as far as that you can have for these, like for satellites. And when you're thinking about a conduit for electricity, you know, um, yeah, those properties are, I mean, they're so vast and so many ways to use silver. Yeah, silverdine cream. Yeah, I was about to go into all these things. So I do have a source. It might not be as good a source as you have, Ken. But remember, when I'm talking about sulfur and combining certain minerals with like metals, you have to seek out a professional, you know, and there's a lot of sites out there you can go for the silver therapeutic properties. Now, that White River in Arkansas, there was people, they basically they go in there and they basically soak in that river. And silver is used to treat wounds. So it has a healing power in and of itself. And if you look at, they even have a silver like healing center, or at least that's one of the processes they use to heal wounds. There's a huge freaking building near Hot Springs and White White River, Arkansas. So that when I transitioned from Florida, right? Ponce de Leon. What was Ponce de Leon looking for? Not only was he looking for, what was he scouting for? He wasn't just scouting for the fountain of youth, believing it come from a spring, right? He was close. If not, he possibly did have something. He was looking for gold. A lot of people see, I don't know if they're suppressing this information or whatever, but he was also looking for silver. Now, one of his successors found that White River. White River is said to cure people or heal wounds because of the unnatural large amounts of silver in that river, which means, in my opinion, it's coming from the mountains in Arkansas and basically going down into the rivers, or it's coming up from the fountains or the springs and feeding that silver into that river or those river systems, to include Hot Springs, Arkansas. Now, I mean, I couldn't believe all this information was out there. I couldn't believe it was all out there. So, we're paying 62%. Now, I think I said it at $80, the price of silver, the spot price. We're paying, they're basically, the ratio of gold to silver is 62.5 to 1 when silver's at $80 an ounce to gold. Now, gold is just something that basically, I know they use it for jewelry and that kind of thing, and I love the golden jewelry too. I'm not downing it whatsoever, in the value, but come on now. In my opinion, this is RH's opinion. They suppressed the silver price where it should be a ratio of gold 5 to 1 for silver. Okay, 5 to 1. That means if gold is 5,000, no, 5 to 1. If gold is 5,000, it would be like what was it, $500 an ounce? Somebody can do the math for me. I can't go out of and go into another app or whatever. I'll lose the live stream. But if it's 10 to 1, okay, 10 to 1 is $500, right? Gold valued at 10 to 1 over silver. Even with that, they're saying that gold could possibly hit $10,000 an ounce. Now, if somebody's a diehard person that wants gold that much, right? Price per gram. Yeah. I mainly don't like to go. So 1,000 grams is what, 1 kilogram? Is that it? Yeah, it's kind of, I do things in ounces, so there is a guy out there that said you can retire if you buy silver, 1 kilo of silver. That's 1 kilo per US pound is two pounds. Yeah. So 2 pounds of silver. There's a channel out there, and he had a lot of good arguments. Basically, I'm taking some of those arguments he had. Now that's a YouTube channel. And I didn't write the channel down, but y'all can go look it up. It says by 1 kilo of silver you can retire. That's I think the title of the live stream on YouTube. So you can go check that out maybe after this live stream's over, write it down. Don't forget, because if I don't write down the source references after I hear them, and I have to rewind back the live stream wherever I was at to basically remember where it was at. You know what I mean? So go check it out. Wow, only one person on YouTube. This is. I know people get disgruntled. They don't want to hear, this. I'm not selling anything to anyone. I'm just providing information. It's up to you. Remember, you got to work with the survival needs first. We all got to work on. I'm practicing what I'm trying to practice what I preach. We got to at least dry foods or canned foods, right? Yeah, you think about how much they're suppressing it. Let me go check out that source reference I had real quick and piggyback on top of what you're saying, Ken. Let me share that on the screen. Yeah, they have nanoparticle silver that they're used for like healing stuff. But I don't know. These people seem like they know a lot more about this stuff than we do. Are they hiding secrets for themselves or whatever? Are they afraid that silver is going to jump up to $500 an ounce or whatever, or even $1,000 an ounce? If it goes to five to one gold to silver, that would be the rate. If gold is at $5,000, it went up. Didn't it go up to what 6,000 for a little while, and then it went back down? And what's crazy, they're still tying silver to gold, and those are they're two metals, but they're really it's uncomparable the uses that there is for silver that there is for gold. It's kind of sparse if you look at the gold. Now I do know that they used to use gold connectors, like what was it? What do you call those? Those TV connectors. Uh, what did they call those connectors? The old time, they used to have them plated with gold. Remember that? And that was probably when gold was only like maybe $200 an ounce, whatever. R, RC jacks. Well, they called it RC jacks. They used to plate those with gold, right? So they got 4 people in Rumble, only 1 on YouTube. That's ridiculous, right? Okay. Right here, listen to this, the science as far as medical purposes. Recent advances in silver nanoparticles for enhancing wound healing, right? I don't want to click on another. Advances in nanoparticles fabrication techniques have improved AGNP stability, whatever that means. Controlled silver ion release. Think about that. And enhanced interactions with biological tissues. Now that's from Science Direct. For those oh, that ain't science, all right. You're out there just talking about stuff, you're not no doctor or nothing. It's kind of funny. Somebody in my silver gel wound care, like Ken just shared, silver alginate wound dressing, silver dressings for wounds, silver nitrate for wounds, nano silver benefits. This is what people also search for. Okay, gold nanoparticles, role of silver and silver-based products in wound. This is from the NIH. Even go to NIH. There's so much stuff about it, and we're not even getting into the thermo properties like solar, reflecting the sun's rays, laser type uses for silver. You needing silver, requiring silver, circuitry, semiconductor chips, batteries, new EV batteries, more efficient batteries, whatever, you name it, military technology, military weapons, ballistic missiles, what do you call it? Self-guiding systems. There's so much stuff out there that they use silver for. And you think, and that's the reason why all these huge corporations have all that clout, because they are lobbying our Congress. And you know what? Remember the political donations they get to keep the price of silver suppressed? Now, in my opinion, silver should be worth $1,000 an ounce right now. And the reason being is, now I just caught this. Now, this could be, you have to fact check our rates on this one, because I forgot the amount of tonnage, but I do know it's tons. And these people were arrested. I think there were 60 tons of silver bars. They were selling them in, I think it was 1,000 ounce or so many grams. And that Eastern, I guess you would call it, was it Southeastern? Okay, let's just say it like it is. China. They found all these fake silver bars when they started to basically saw into the bar, however they were basically getting into the middle of the bar. They found out that the bars, they only had a plate on the outside of 999 silver, but everything on the inside was, let's see, either made of iron or lead. So think about going and buy 1,000 ounce bar of silver, and you pick it up in China, right, by one of those vendors. And from my understanding, a lot of them were arrested. Now think about when they were flooding our market and trying to put our steel manufacturing out of business, and they're flooding our markets with that cheap steel, right? Not the same quality as American steel, right? Remember how President Trump fought to get our steel, U.S. steel back up, and all our steel manufacturing in our country to stop that. So I don't care if they restrict their silver and they have 60% of all silver. How do we know that? How do we know that it's not a bunch of 1,000 ounce bars that are just coated with silver, and it's all a lie to basically control the market and keep the price down so they can continue to build their cheap goods and flood our markets with it? I don't know. But there's something going on there, and we need to check it out really quick like. And that's why we should be buying from U.S., in my opinion. If you're going to go into that and you got money to spare and you got enough supplies for survival needs, if that ever comes, and I recommend 5 months. 5 months, that's biblical. I'm not going to go through the whole end of days prophecy and the tribulation. You know, I don't want to get in that argument. Just basically look at Matthew 24. Okay. It's pretty simple. It's in red print. Read the red print. Don't trust anybody else. Read the red print. You know what I mean by the red print, right? Okay. And just Google 5 months. Bible verse, Revelation, and read up all about it for yourself. Okay? So, yeah, realist. Exactly. Yeah, Comex, definitely. I'm glad you brought that up. That's why I love chat, especially you guys, you old timers that have been here, old timers, right? I've been here 4 years. You know, when you get to my age, 4 years is like a blink of an eye. you know, not quite that fast goes by, but it's going by pretty fast for you know. Seems like time is flying by. No, what we used to hear from our grandparents, our parents, whatever. How silver works for wound healing and infection. Today, silver is a specialized tool in healthcare, particularly for managing wound infection. Okay, that's scienceinsights.org. Now you think about, okay, the element the elephant in the house is what? What is the elephant in the house? I don't know. Medical purposes, if they find a cure, as far as not only healing wounds, but treating wounds. What if they, with the electrons, basically, from what I understand, it stimulates electrons. Can it wake up our memory function, restore our memory function? You know, what happens if you put metals in a microwave? It looks like it arcs, right? If you put aluminum in a microwave, and I'm not suggesting anybody, but I've seen tests and people have done it on their own. So I don't have to be an idiot and go put aluminum can in my microwave oven and turn it on, right? Just to see what happens. No. RH ain't going to do that. Uh, RH is not going to do that. Yeah. Yeah, that's the real value they're holding. And I don't know. Now, remember, the Trump administration declared silver a a national strategic mineral, right? Put it in a mineral camp. So then that in and of itself should have gave us a clue. Melania's silver, it looked just like silver, like a metal dress. I'm not lying. On New Year's Eve. Now, come on now. Is that just a coincidence? And how he kept talking about the golden age and you go back to history. Now, could somebody gone into those Wikipedia links like sterling silver and basically put the American golden age of silver in there and put quotation brackets around it, whatever? You know, yeah, people could be trying to manipulate it, right? They can do that, yeah, but you can't skirt around all these property. I mean, uses for silver. You just can't do it. No, and I heard an individual say, "Well, there's other metals you can use to take over and just use other different uses." Those people, in my opinion, they've already got their profit off of silver. They probably got it when it was only like $10 an ounce, and you know they finally got their day. And when it got up to like $120 an ounce, they might have been able to sell, or well, still over $100 an ounce for that short time. They probably got out, you know, and took a nice chunk of change with them. And they probably went with that money, went and bought gold, So now they're hyping up gold. Oh, gold's where it's at. It's going to go up to $10,000 an ounce. Well, before gold goes up to $10,000 an ounce, silver should be at least worth $1,000, 10%. Think about it. If it's 10-to-1 ratio gold to silver at $10,000 an ounce, that's $1,000. But if it's 5-to-1 ratio at $10,000, what is that? That's $5,000 an ounce for silver. Now, RH, you're getting a little bit bigger than your britches. You're getting a little bit bigger than your britches, RH. You're in way over your head now, RH. Yeah, right. Okay. I'm not the smartest cookie in the jar, and there's a lot of cookies in that jar, believe me. I'm not the smartest one in the jar. It's not like there's only 2 cookies in that jar, and I'm not the smartest, and there's only one more. I'm not the smartest cookies in the jar. I'm one of the 2 cookies, and the other guy's smarter, or gal, or child, or whatever is smarter than me, right? Whatever. I could care less. So let me get back before they have to refresh the live stream every time I go start to read off source references. But I think y'all have the gist. Should I go down the whole list of? Okay, so they set a platform. I think JD Vance set a platform. I talked about that the other night. So I don't know if any of y'all were here to hear that or not. But it sounds like JD Vance. And the reason being is so China cannot manipulate the market. Remember, they're restricting their exports to their own licensed companies, right? They're gonna only license to their close allies or whatever, friends that's working directly for them, because they're gonna basically work as far as the strategy that China wants to go, and China wants to take a basically monopoly over all metals, over all minerals in the entire world, and they want to push us out. Believe me, China's not working on far as U.S. interest. And far as them flooding the market with cheap goods based off of slave labor, and far as my understanding, there's still slave labor going on in China. So if anybody wants to correct RH on that, put the correction in the comment section, and I'll check it out, and I'll make the necessary corrections. And what about all these? What do you call these people that are out there? I forgot what they call the term. They're going out there trying to lecture us about how evil the United States is and all this stuff, and we're living on stolen land while they're speaking in Latin, Spanish. They were basically, their land was stolen by the conquistadors. Pretty much all of South America, right? Remember what happened to the Aztecs? Go read what happened to what was it? De Soto did to, I think it was that Aztec chief, whatever. Go read up what he did to the Aztec chief. They were going to basically pay a ransom for that chief. Go look at what they did. They got the nerve to go in there, and who discovered Puerto Rico first? It was the conquistadors. God. What, talking about stupidity, to go out there and talk about, if you get the Spanish or Latin, what do you call that? When you basically, God, I can't even remember that word. When you translate the what that guy said, that sick bunny guy, whatever, listen to what he said in Spanish. He doesn't get a free pass because he did it all in Spanish. See, this is the legal advice that guy got, I believe he got before he went on on that halftime so-called, what do you call that? Where they just talk rap, right? It had no rhythm, no. It was crappy. It was the worst show I've ever seen in the halftime show. One guy had his back turned when they were singing the national anthem or whatever, or the whatever, one of those songs. One of those NFL players had his back turned to it. Wow, man, you're going to get your name in the papers, buddy. Look, great going. Wow, you're such a hero, man. Not. Let me head over to. So if y'all don't mind sharing the Rumble and the YouTube link, so people that missed this live stream tonight can basically get the information. Yeah, there's another channel. I forgot his name too. I just went on the other night. Guy in our community going through some tough times with the freezing weather wherever he's at. Camo Carl. Yeah, I haven't watched the Super Bowl in years. After they started doing that kneeling stuff and disrespecting our flag, even the military, the honor guard. I think they did that too. I stopped watching them. There's still a lot of fans that they lost back then in those days with all that woke crap taking a knee. Now, I want to say something about this really quick. I watched one of the court hearing videos that was basically recorded, and they were showing it for the defense for Shaven or whatever his name is, right? Yeah, I'm not saying what he did with that knee. Yeah, the most he should have done, he should have been administratively punished, suspended without pay for a month or two, or maybe fired. But to put him in prison for life for murder, that's not what Floyd died of. And I got 2 videos I watched with my own eyes. So somebody fact check me, right? Fact check me with the truth, not what was basically exculpatory information or discovery and those hearings. I watched 2 videos. One before the arrest of George Floyd. How many people knew what George Floyd, why the law enforcement was called in to begin with? Why was law enforcement called in to begin with? Because he went into in my opinion, I saw the video. I actually saw the video without sound. I don't know why they turned the sound off. I think they turned the sound off. I'm not sure. But before that arrest was made on Floyd, or they tried to arrest him, I'll get into that. I'll watch that video too. They only show you the neck video, the knee on the neck video. They don't show you what happened before that. So before even that, before the police came in on the scene, he went into a kiosk, like a little grocery store or whatever, or a little store to buy cigarettes. He's on video. He's wasted, in my opinion. He keeps putting his hands in his pockets in that video. That video's right over the register where he was standing. He keeps going back and forth in his pockets. Now, he was there to buy a pack of cigarettes. Yes, I watched the video. They actually showed it in the hearing. The defense lawyer showed that for Chauvin or whatever his name is. He actually went into that kiosk, right? I actually watched the video multiple times. He went up to the main register where the manager was, and he kept putting his hands in his pockets over and over again, like, and he pulled something out. And then somebody came in the store and gave him something, put something in his hands. He looked at it, he put it in his pocket, right? Then he went over to the tobacco stand where there was a clerk there only for selling tobacco, like papers or whatever, whatever they buy, cigarettes or whatever, cigars, you know what I mean? Cigars, that kind of thing. Okay, so he went over there to pay for it, and he asked the clerk for a pack of cigarettes. The clerk got it for him, and then Floyd gave that clerk a $20 bill. And the clerk noticed after he got it, he was supposed to check it, make sure it wasn't counterfeit, right? But after George Floyd began to leave, he raised up that $20 bill in there. That's what he was supposed to do as an employee. If anybody passed him a counterfeit bill, and see, so the manager can be signaled, okay, he's got a counterfeit bill. What do you think he does at that point? Call the law enforcement, right? Because they're supposed to report counterfeit bills. I think that's a requirement when you have a store. And that's why you see a lot of these grocery stores, if you got like $100 bill, if you're rich enough to have a $100 bill, whatever, even though $100 bills is worth about $10 now than what they used to be in the early 70s, whatever, but anyways, yeah, so he raised that bill up in the air, and come to find out that clerk knew it was a counterfeit bill, and the store policy is if you don't raise that bill up in the air and you basically give them the merchandise and you take that, then you have to pay for that out of your own money. So that person, I don't know if they got legal advice before that to keep Floyd out of trouble, and so that wouldn't be involved in the report. That's what I'm thinking happened, right? Because that happened where? In Minnesota, right? I'm on YouTube. I can't see you, Minnesota, if you're still here. I think all that happened in Minnesota, right? If I'm not mistaken. So, in my opinion, it's just my opinion, after watching the video multiple times, I think that clerk went out there to confront him after he left. And I don't know what happened after that. I think it was inadmissible, whatever. And I think what happened is, from what I understand, they pulled Floyd over. So after there's talk with Floyd and all that stuff, right? After the counterfeit bill was passed and he got his cigarettes and left the store, and that clerk basically encountered with him outside for whatever reason, they probably called law enforcement and probably said, "Hey, I got you, man. Go ahead. You better probably go," because we probably called the police. That's what I'm thinking happened, right? But remember, I remind people here, I'm not making this stuff up. This was actually in the legal proceedings in the hearing, the Chavez hearing. Okay, that was basically allowed to be shown. I don't know how much other stuff they blocked from Floyd's background, but he had a criminal background. I didn't want to see the guy die like that. Nobody wanted to see the guy die like that. Anybody says they did, I mean, they're sick or whatever. It's sad the guy had to die, especially at what ensued afterwards. People thinking they have the right to go out there and murder innocent people because of the actions of other people. So anyways, after that video, there's another video, and that video is of the police camera was turned on when they were trying to arrest Floyd and put him in the back of an SUV. There was about 3 law enforcement individuals, not just Chauvin, whatever, 3 law enforcement individuals that were trying to get Floyd in the back seat, and he kept resisting arrest. They get him in. They might get him sit down on the back seat. He goes, please, please, I don't want to. I'm a good guy. I'm a good guy. I'm not a bad guy. Right. And I think they did to see if he did a test as far as with drug tests. I think they may have done that as well. And they may have made that inadmissible. Right. I'm not sure. But they, the autopsy, I think the autopsy or the coroner's report, he had fentanyl and he had meth in his system. He had an enlarged heart. But anyways, going back to when Floyd resisted, I am not lying. At least 10 times they were like begging the guy, please just get in the back of the car. All he had to do was just, instead of resisting arrest, all he had to do was get in the back of the car. I'm not sure. He said he's claustrophobic or something like that in that exchange. But I watched that video also about, I've watched it more times than I watched the store video. He resisted every time they tried to put him in that SUV, the back of that SUV. If he'd allowed them to take him, he would still be alive today. Maybe, I don't know. But he had so much, see, when he was resisting arrest, he already had an enlarged heart. He already had fentanyl and methamphetamines in the system. Now listen, I watched the video. I read the coroner and the autopsy report. He had an enlarged heart caused by fentanyl, I think methamphetamines. And that struggle, if he didn't arrest, if he was just calm, maybe he was on probation and he would get like 5 years or 10 years. But all he had to do was have a lawyer. But I'm going to say this right now. He was looking at what I saw, and we're taught those signs in the military when you get up to managerial level, because people have died on active duty doing the taking illegal drugs while they're actually on active duty. And I won't get into that. But Floyd, if those police officers let him get back in his car and drive away, he would have not only risked George Floyd's life, but George Floyd himself could have risked the lives of others as well. He was wasted. Hey, Tracy, man, I haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you here too as well. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, I was talking with Ken. Ken's over there on Rumble in the chat. Ken Z. It looks like Z. Is it ZQ 9856 or O 9856? Well, he's over there in chat. He's another one that's been with me since the very beginning, like 4 years ago when I first started the live streams. Yeah, I'm glad I'm here too. Man, there's so much going on over here in Florida. We went down to freezing for about 4 or 5 nights or something like that, even in Central Florida. And we normally don't. We might get really cold weather, maybe a day or two, but not, not cold air and not that kind of freezes that long, right? All right. Yeah, you come through again. We're also talking about, hey, Tracy, about the properties of silver, the healing uses for healing wounds. Silver actually helps heal wounds. The NIH actually has a study on it. If you go back and watch the live stream from the beginning, basically you can pick up on all the stuff that I talked about tonight. Yeah, but George Floyd, and they're still using that to this day. They used it to start the riots. You know, that's BHO's favorite tactic. Whenever it looks like he's ever about to be held accountable for something, there's another riot somewhere in the country. They can't be all just coincidental, right? Community organizing riots. Man, I mean, these people, I can't believe what they've gotten away with. Could you imagine if the shoe was on the other foot and we had done that to them? What happened? You know, we got hindsight, perfect vision, right? Always say 2020. All this sick stuff. I heard that they're trying to basically throw out all those false crime accusations, throw them all out. I don't know if that's true or not. Could be AI. Sometimes I admit AIs. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Tracy, really, I do. We're just talking about how many viewers I used to have. I was watching, like, going back through some of them, and some of the most viewers I had on a single live stream. I know for the mega channels out there, like 4,000 viewers for a single live stream is like chump change, right? But for this guy here, you know, I'm not no movie star celebrity, you know. Could you imagine if you had just like I have over 500 followers. Could you imagine back in high school in the 70s if you had 500 friends, if you had a network of 500 friends? I imagine when I was like 15 years old, if I had friends, 500 friends, say, "Hey man, you need your yard mowed." At 15 years old, I'd probably be a millionaire by now. Well, no, way back before. I'd have been a millionaire before I was 18. I had a network of friends of 500 friends. You know, I didn't have to look up the white pages to try to find my friends. If I, you know, how many, remember going back to like elementary school and high school, unless you're very, very popular, you know, the majority of people knew who you were, you know, unless you're like a valedictorian or something, you know what I mean? Or the school queen or whatever you have. I know. Uh, but could you imagine having a network in the 70s, 500 people you could do business with? And I'm out there, I got my bicycle, I can get where I can pull it. I can pull my lawnmower behind my bicycle, you know, with a couple rakes or whatever, you know, and go to my next job. Or I just walk the lawnmower. I would just walk. I didn't have a problem walking 5 or 6, 10 blocks or whatever. I'd just walk my lawnmower with a rake or whatever I needed to bring with me and do yards. Honest living. You know, I could mow a yard for like $5, you know, like a quarter acre, like a half an acre, like $5 back then. The minimum wage was less than $2 an hour, I think, back then. Like in 1975, you can look that up, right? It might have been a little over $2 an hour, but $5, I was getting $5 all the time. It was like, dang, this is like I'm rich, you know, 15 and 70, 75, you know, I'm rich. You think about 500 jobs in summertime, in the week, in the summertime, 500 jobs. Man, I'd have to quit school. No, I don't know. Maybe I could do, I'd have to, what do you call that? Uh, I had to open up RH's own lawnmower boy franchise. Lawn boy franchise. RH Lawn Boy franchise. Man, I could open up a franchise. Can you imagine once a week, $5 times 500? That's 2,500 bucks, right? 2,500 bucks. I was rich. And I could buy like a brand new car back in 75 for like $2,500. Might have been a little Vega or something, a cool car, but yeah, you could buy or a fairly not too old car, a used car, maybe year or 2 years old car. Man, you could buy a nice car back in 75 with 2,500. That's just 1 week of work. Say if I just got a percentage, okay, so I just got a percentage, 2 weeks work. Maybe I only got half of everything. So that's $1,250, right? $1,250 for 1 week's work. That's not too shabby right now. We're talking about, having 500 followers on YouTube, and I'm still not monetized over there. I don't even know how to be monetized on YouTube, but I've had donations on Rumble before, and I asked people, and somebody said, and I thought about this, you shouldn't basically turn away your blessings, right? So I thought about it. I go, yeah, why not? If somebody wants to donate, makes them feel good, helps me out. Hey, I have no problem with it. Yeah, I got a new used type laptop, and I got it, but I don't even know how to set it up now. All the laptops I used to buy, they had everything set up already. YouTube was already set up. I basically had to set everything up on this thing. I'm not a geek anymore. I used to know how to do all this stuff, but yeah. Sorry if I missed y'all. Kind of like when I get off, I start. I even forgot how the word translate there for a while. Like you have your mind going in too many different directions, and you'll basically mess up the live stream and forget the points you're about to make and all kinds of stuff. But anyways, yeah, the main thing of this, check out the wound healing properties of silver. Check out White River, Arkansas. That's the main thing there. When I found that, I was sitting there. I was telling people, my family, members of my family, to invest in silver before. Let's see, and I was basically. I don't even have, even to this day, I don't have enough basic survival uh, materials I need to include food to get through 5 months just for myself, let alone helping my neighbor or anybody else, or helping my neighbors. So, yeah, I'd like to have a computer desk with like two like file drawers, you know, and I put a wish like this Christmas time. Santa Claus. I'm kidding. Okay, I know all about the history of Saint Nick, uh, Nicholas, Bishop Nicholas. Right? There's in the Aryan dude, whatever. I know all the history. So I've actually talked about that on this live stream, on one or more live streams around Christmas time, I think. But that's where it came from. The secularists had to have their own way of partying. That's where Santa Claus came along, and the tree, the evergreen tree. Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 10, I think it is. Go check it out. I think that's the one. Let me go. When I quote scripture verses, I have to actually go look it up and fact check it myself, because I don't want to send y'all to the wrong direction. But go check it out, what Jeremiah chapter 10, as far as what it talks about. But I'm still going to fact check myself. See, that's a quality of live stream you have here. The host actually fact checks himself, so y'all don't have to do it. Not all the time, though. You guys have caught me with some doozies before. I mean, I literally say some things that were actually the opposite of what I wanted to say. Horrible mistakes sometimes. Let me see here. Jeremiah was a bullfrog. Da da da. Was a good friend of mine. Of course, Jeremiah the prophet, he's not a bullfrog. I take that back. I'm just making a joke. It's a song, right? With the name Jeremiah in it. That's a cool name, ain't it? Jeremiah. Chapter 10. That's what I quoted you guys on. Okay, this is Jeremiah chapter 10. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. I'm talking about the evergreen tree and going all the way back to Nimrod. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen. I've got to turn up this light. Right when it's getting interesting. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. They're signs, right? For the customs of the people are vain. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workman with the axe. They deck it with silver and gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, but speak not. They must needs be born, because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. What is 10:10? But the Lord is the true God, he is the living God, and an everlasting King. At his wrath the earth shall tremble, and the nations shall not be able to abide his indignation. Thus shall ye say unto them, the gods, lowercase g gods, that have not made the heavens and the earth, even they shall perish from the earth and from under these heavens. He has made the earth by his power. He hath established the world by his wisdom, and hath stretched out the heavens by his discretion. When he uttered his voice, there is a multitude of waters in the heavens, and he causeth the vapors to ascend from the ends of the earth. He maketh lightnings with rain, and bringeth forth the wind out of his treasures. Okay, I won't read anymore, but I'm glad I read Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 10. But think about this. Thus saith the Lord. This is chapter 10, verse 1. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. For the customs of the people are vain, for one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. They deck it with silver and gold. They hammer it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. They are upright as the palm tree, means the Christmas tree, right? Or the evergreen tree. They used to plant an evergreen tree as symbolic for, I think, Nimrod or Nimrod's mother used to do that. I can't remember. I think Nimrod was married to his mother. But that's where they started. That's where it came from, to kind of like worship, kind of like an evergreen tree. So remember, they deck it with silver and gold, the Christmas tree, right? And remember that that song, Silver and Gold. So remember Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? Remember that Christmas cartoon? What was his name? Cornelius, the guy, the treasure hunter, the miner. He'd throw that that pitch axe, whatever, up in the air, and it hit the ground, and he tasted the pickaxe to see if there was silver or gold in the ground. Remember that? So one thing that I have to say is before you start investing in anything like silver or metals, they call silver the poor man's gold because it's not as costly as gold. But right now, in my opinion, $80 is a pretty good price for gold. In my opinion, it's 82. If it's gone out a little bit more, in my opinion, right now it should be worth about $500. If gold is worth $5,000 an ounce, silver should be at least worth $500. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it based on some of the things I talked about, the uses for it tonight to include. And I'd actually forgotten this. I can't believe just remembered about that White River in Arkansas. And then I read a little bit more about that because I was trying to find which conquistador actually went to the White River and actually laid in that river. And they did a test of that river. I saw this, I think, on a history channel on YouTube. If I find that history channel again, I'll bring it up. But they actually went and tested the waters in a lab of because they wanted to know why was people their wounds being healed so fast or whatever, or they had skin problems or whatever, or cuts or whatever. Why were they healing so quickly? And basically, the natives knew that all along. They had a they call it Indian rock house, right? It's Native American rock house right there on the bluffs. It was like a natural rock, like a cave, right? They can go in and take shelter. But yeah, it's very popular, and this goes way back in history, all the way to the 16th century, the 1500s, right? Going back to Ponce de Leon and uh, De Soto, Hernando de Soto. We got a De Soto Park, I think, or Hernando Park. I think we have a De Soto Park too as well in Florida. But anyways, think about the tree they go out and cut down, the Christmas tree we call it, or the evergreen, whatever. They talk about cutting it down. It has needs. They nail it to the Christmas tree. What do you call that thing? You nail it to where you just uh the tree stand, right? Remember the tree stands you had when you were a kid and you put water in it so that it don't dry out, the leaves don't dry out so quick, the needles don't dry out and fall off so quick. Remember that? Yeah, so they're cutting down a tree. The axeman comes out there and cuts it down with an axe or chainsaw, however they do it nowadays, right? They bring it in the house, drag it in the house, put it on top of the car, put a cargo strap around it, right? Drive it back home, set it up on a tree stand, put water in it, tree stand. Or back in those days, they got some couple pieces of wood, right? They made a stand with wood and they nailed it to the stand, right? So it couldn't go anywhere. Needs must be met. You had to put water in the stand or spray it with water or get it hose it down, whatever, so the needles don't fall off. And it wouldn't move, it wouldn't talk. And God said, don't be scared of those people. You know, I remember first reading this the first time, man. I love, setting up, even helping to set up Christmas trees. Remember the remember the silver? Remember the silver we used to hang on our trees? I don't know, yeah, what do they call it? Lametta? Um, ice ice crystals. What do we call the silver we used to hang on our street? It's like foil, right? Like silver foil or something. Well, I'm kind of like rambling on. I'm going to look at some of my notes now real quick. So go check out the Indian Rock House for by White River area, Arkansas. Go check out the Fountain of Youth and see that's where DeSoto went. And they thought they found the Fountain of Youth with that river and the healing properties it had. And that healing property, when they tested that water back in the lab, it had an unnormal amount of silver. So that silver is coming from somewhere, right? It's either coming up from the spring or that's the water coming down from the mountain, right? Mountains or mountain. So with that said, I'm going to do a little bit more research on this. And this is just a word of just advice. You can take it or leave it. I know people rather have gold than silver. I'll probably say the majority of people, but think about it. Think about the investment opportunities, especially after they went in and made sure that they wouldn't flood the market with their cheap knockoffs, whatever. So when I find that article again that I read, I think I read it. I saw it on YouTube. I think it's 60 tons of silver, if I'm not mistaken. So that's 6 times 2,000 pounds. 60 times 2,000 pounds. That's a whole lot of silver that they have in these bars that they had to mint it somewhere. You just don't make 1,000-ounce bars with it actually stamped with like a mint stamp on it with 0.999 on it, right? In Chinese writing, whatever it was. You just can't have just some amateurs doing that, right? Those people had to have knowledge of minting 1,000-ounce gold bars. They had to have knowledge of basically encasing those 1,000-ounce gold bars with 999 silver, 0.999 silver, and being able to fill in the inside of those bars with either iron or lead. So that's a big fraud. From my understanding, the Chinese police shut down those what do you call those those people that sell stuff on the side of the street. It's just at the tip of my tongue. Vendors. They shut down a lot of vendors. A lot of people were arrested. But how many more of those counterfeit bars are out there? Remember, make sure you're buying US. Make sure it's from a US mint. It's got stamped. And some of those places, they have a mint mark. You have to look under a certain type of light, whatever, and you can see the serial numbers or whatever on the bars. That's what you want to look at, okay? So unless you're in the business of going and buying a silver bar, and you have to cut down to the middle of it to see that takes away the value. I watched Pawn Stars with Rick. I forgot his last name. The guy brought in all this old silver, like a lot of it was junk silver, but it was still, at least worth 925 or whatever it was. He had 1,000-ounce bar or big, huge bar. It might have been more than 1,000 ounces. I think 1,000 ounces, 32 pounds, if I'm not mistaken. Could be more. I'm not sure. But might be twice that amount. I'm not sure how much 1,000 ounces is. I can go check that out, but I can't do in a live stream. But anyways, yeah. Rick actually got a drill, a metal drill with a metal bit on it. And he actually drilled into the middle of that 1,000-ounce bar, however big that bar was. It was huge, to test the contents of it, and it was real. It was either I think it was 925. I think it was sterling silver. Tested and it came up sterling silver. But the guy had a huge saving in silver. He'd been saving silver for a long time. I think it was over $100,000 back then of silver he had. That was quite a lot back in that year. I watched that. But anyways, so with that said, I think I've pretty much covered everything I wanted to cover tonight. Thank you all for being patient with this channel and for RH. A lot of things have gone on. No, we refer my partner there is Mrs. RH, and she had a stroke on September 1st. So a lot of things changed since then. A lot of things changed. She's getting better, but she's not up to full strength yet, and she's still got to go through therapy and that kind of thing, and do her exercises and all that kind of thing. Hopefully, she'll get back up to full strength and way she was before. But that basically, and there's another equation to that. It's not just Helen. Uh, not just Helen. So I'm not going to talk about my personal history here, but could use some prayers for my family and myself and my country, and I'm strong enough to get through this. Because it takes takes a lot out of you. So, anyways, yeah. So, with that said, there's nothing else that I can't remember. Hold on a second. Let me go check and see if there's anything new. Don't believe me. I'm watching what's going on with Iran, that death to America crowd over there, and what they're doing to their citizens. And where's the outrage from all these other countries? They're keeping out of it, right? Yeah, I appreciate it, Tracy. I really do. Prayers do work. I believe in prayers 100%. And remember, don't forget our president, the first family, our first lady, our country, and pray for especially all the victims of circumstance around the world. What I mean by victims of circumstance, heck, any one of us can have been born in one of those countries I'm talking about, like Iran or other countries. I won't mention any names. You can't help what the government does in those other countries. You can't. You're just a victimized not as much as some of the ultimate victims. You know what I mean? But these people are born there. Their families there. What are they supposed to do? Abandon their families because of the regime that kidnapped, basically took hostage all of Iran, the Persians. Remember, it wasn't that long ago in history that Iran was one of our best allies. Remember during the Shah days, and they were down bad mouthing the Shah just as much as they even not as much as they're doing President Trump with all this ridiculous stuff with their psychological warfare / propaganda operation and this defamation. I mean, it's just gone really out of control. And see, these people got people to donate for them to say the nastiest things to Americans that you could think of. They're being paid. They have no integrity of their own. They're just like a mercenary. They just go out and work for the highest bidder, right? Or any bidder for that matter. Okay, so let me see if there's anything new going on. One of the last live streams, let me see here. See if I can find it really fast. I talked about what they use silver for. Remember we talked about Lord our God put wisdom in our hearts? Think about that, okay? They say the heart is a special muscle, right? Special muscle. When they say he's got muscle memory, that term has come up quite a bit lately. And I start to reflect on that, right? Okay, where did I get that? I got that quote, the Lord our God puts wisdom in our hearts in the Bible itself, okay? And I'm about to give you the verse. Okay. See, the the Israelites used to give the Lord our God offerings. And this is they were giving offerings to the Lord our God. Now this is Exodus chapter 35, beginning with verse 4. And Moses spake unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, this is the thing which the Lord commanded, saying, Lord, okay, with all caps, okay, take ye from among you an offering unto the Lord. Whosoever is of a willing heart, let him bring it, an offering of the Lord, gold and silver and brass, and blue and purple and scarlet and fine linen, and goat's hair, and ram skins dyed red, and badger skins and shittim wood, and oil for the light, and spices for anointing oil, and for the sweet incense, and onyx stones, and stones to be set for the ephod, and for the breastplate. And every wise hearted among you shall come and make all that the Lord hath commanded. The tabernacle is his tent and his covering, his tacks and his boards, his bars, his pillars, and his sockets, the ark and the stays thereof, with a mercy seat, and the veil of the covering, the table and the staves, and all its vessels, and the showbread, the candlestick also for the light, and for its furniture, and the lamps, with the oil for the light, and the incense out altar, and his staves, and the anointing oil, and the sweet incense, and the hanging of the door of the entering in of the tabernacle, the altar of burnt offerings with its brazen grate, his staves and all his vessels, the laver his foot. Okay, I won't go into any further, but hold on a second. See. Let me see now. Okay, now this is where you find this at. Now, I just wanted to read that silver quote, right? The offerings to the Lord our God, silver, gold, and brass. And this is chapter 36, Exodus chapter 36. Remember, I was just reading Exodus chapter 35. Now, the beginning of Exodus chapter 36. Then wrought Bezalel and Aholiab and every wise hearted man in whom the Lord put wisdom and understanding to know how to work all manner of work for the service of the sanctuary according to all that the Lord had commanded. And Moses called Bezalel and Aholiab and every wise-hearted man in whose heart the Lord had put wisdom, even everyone whose heart stirred him up to come unto the work to do it. And they received of Moses all the offering which the children of Israel had brought for the work of the service of the sanctuary to make it withal. And they brought yet unto him free offerings every morning. Remember, gold, silver, and brass, right? Let me fact check myself again. Going back to chapter 35. Okay, and this is Exodus chapter 35, verse 4 again. And Moses spake unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, saying, This is the thing which the Lord commanded, saying, Take ye from among you an offering unto the Lord. Whosoever is of a willing heart, let him bring it, an offering of the Lord, gold and silver and brass. Okay, so that was to make the tabernacle, right? Where what? It housed the what? The ark of his testimony, or the ark of the covenant as we know it. As far as I know it more as the ark of the ark of the covenant. That's why I know it the most. I know what it says in the KJV version Bible. I know what it says. Okay, I don't want to get into an argument over that, but so with that said, I did share that information. I got it out. So that's what I needed to share. I'm going to do a okay, so China liquidating every dollar in banks. Well, go ahead, China. Okay. United States parked over 10 billion in warships, stealth fighters, and Tomahawk loaded submarines on Iran's doorstep, including a nuclear supercarrier, 12 plus warships, 35 Strike Eagles, and 50,000 troops. And you don't spend that kind of money on a bluff. Treasury Secretary Bissett just told the Senate that Iran's own leaders are wiring money out like crazy because the rats are leaving the ship, with the supreme leader's son allegedly moving 328 million overseas as the regime banks collapse and its currency disintegrates. Economic road is closed. The diplomatic road is dead, and the only road left leads straight through the regime. The stage is set, the actors are in position, and all that's missing is the spark. This morning, I was already told by my former Intel colleague how it's going to go. Okay, that now this is Hal Turner radioshow.com. Go check it out. Okay. Now there's a premium to get some of his information, but it's Hal Turner Radio Show. Okay. So go check that out.com and you can read that for yourself. So if you subscribe, you can get kind of like insider. I believe he used to be connected with the FBI, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure he's a law enforcement official at one time. He's got connections with Intel. The site is owned by Harold C. Turner. Guess he goes by Hal, right? puts out a lot of good information. Remember, we don't agree on everything. We don't, we have a right to our opinions, and you know, people in our community. It's good. We don't want to divide each other, but we all have our own opinions sometimes, and some of them don't match up, and that goes with a lot of people. So, okay. So, with that said, I appreciate all the support I have on this channel, even though it's not that many, anywhere near the same amount of views. Oh, yeah, this is what I want to say too. I want to check Rumble because this gives you kind of like an idea of how they throttle back this channel. Okay, I went over the 100,000 all-time views threshold on Rumble, so 101,059 total all-time views. That's the stats, right, for Rumble. I don't know how many all-time views I have on YouTube, but I was having a lot more viewers I was on YouTube before they started shadow banning me, deplatforming, whatever. They did them both. They're still doing it. So with that said, thank you for everybody that's hung in all this, stuck in this all this time, and I really appreciate it. Okay, and it's not for the money. I never did this for the money, but like I said, I talked about that earlier. I won't go back and repeat that. But anyways, I appreciate everything y'all done for this channel, even though it's a small channel. And good morning, good day, good evening, wherever you're from. This concludes the live stream. And remember, in God we trust. Everybody else, trust but verify. Good night.